Yes, people. What's going on? Welcome to our brand new podcast, Five at the Back. I'm going to introduce everyone now. Up from the northeast, but living in Leeds, Jack Body.
Hello.
Coburn, our resident London. How's it going?
Yo.
Albert, introduce yourself.
Do I not get a description? I thought you were going to go Albert from
You got to earn a description on this show.
Baby Jesus.
It's already on the back foot, yeah. Jesus from Peterborough.
And go on, Tilly. Might as well.
United.
Wow, it's been a struggle to get here so far from naming troubles, but we're finally here. And what better way to start it with Project Restart now fully underway.
Buzzing, lads.
17th of June, football is finally coming back. It's taken a while, but we finally got here, Coburn.
Yeah, wasn't sure we were ever going to make it back. Not sure how I feel about playing behind closed doors, but football's football. I'm ready.
Inject it into his veins.
It's been a while without it, hasn't it, lads? I must admit, I've really missed it. I've watched a bit of the Bundesliga, but yeah, it's just
Not the same.
Same, is it?
Speaking of which, how's my bet going on? I had a fivefold on the Bundesliga today. Love that betting's back. Absolutely love it. I've been lost without. I've been betting on virtual horse racing. There's nothing else. Sorry, probably not the best time to check that. I'll leave that. Come on, Dortmund.
Well, that's it. Yeah, football back. How have people been watching the Bundesliga too much?
I was
On and
literally
off.
just watching Dortmund versus Paderborn before, and it was probably one of the worst games I've witnessed Dortmund play.
Still 0-0, buds.
I have no idea. I turned it off. I think it's still going on now. If anybody wants to check.
Yeah, I've watched some. I'm not convinced. We watched Buds. We watched Leipzig.
0-0.
Who did they play the other day? Leipzig when they won 5-0 or something. That was quite entertaining, but.
Was this the Bayern Munich 5-0?
No, Leipzig. But either way,
it
it was problem is it's sort of. I think it's so at points I struggle to sort of keep my interest in, especially with no fans. It's almost like a training session. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, you get your goals and your highlights.
What's he got?
Yeah,
At the moment.
How long Wi-Fi? Good start, boys. Keep going.
Just making a good point as well.
At the moment, I'm just not really sure how I feel about football because obviously having watched a couple of the Bundesliga games, I'm not sure whether it's not resonating with me because
Go on,
it's the
Dortmund.
Bundesliga or whether it's not resonating with me because of the lack of fans. So when I watch other sports, like when I watch the UFC, the lack of fans, if anything, added to my enjoyment. You know, I can engage a lot more with the combat, the activity, and I feel like football fans are, they add a lot more to the atmosphere than UFC fans do, who often just shout for more punches. Football fans are a lot more well informed. They know the patterns of the game. They provide momentum for the team's performances. And I think having no fans would affect certain teams in a different way to having no fans will affect other teams. I think
it's really shown.
Get carried by that momentum. Certain teams kind of play despite it.
I was going to say, it's really sort of shown in the Bundesliga that home advantage really does count for nothing at the moment.
I mean, back on that point you've just said there, Max, obviously I've just mentioned my bet before, but when I was putting my Acker on today in the Bundesliga, literally the odds have shifted so much that the stronger team is far more of an odds-on favourite now than they were before home advantage counted. Like, there are teams there that are weaker playing at home that are 5-1, and you don't often see that when everything's normal. So it really has shown that it has a massive effect on the results.
Do you reckon referees prefer it behind closed doors?
Well, saying that, did you watch the Bayern Dortmund game?
Yes.
There was a guy controlling the sound of the stadium because they had all the fans cheering, right? The referee gave a free kick and the guy put a load of booing on over the speakers. So there's obviously a DJ somewhere mixing the fucking sounds or whatever, and he's put a load of booing on. The referee must have been like, Jesus, can't catch a break here.
I saw in the
Danish
Danish Super League, they had screens of fans watching at home in the stands, which I wasn't too sure on.
I don't want to get into it too much, but I did see there was a club somewhere in Europe that had a cutout where fans could pay to have their image
I
posted.
think it might have been Mönchengladbach.
Someone did a Dominic Cummings had appeared randomly in one of the stands.
I think
We should all just buy Dominic Cummings cut
out
and just fill a stand with Dominic Cummings.
I think the photo, or like the ideas they're trying to do to incorporate a lot of other fans.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work. I think Goodyear suggested that they have fans in park and lots, and they've basically got big cinema screens outside the stadium, and it's basically people can watch the games in their cars, but it just wouldn't have the same effect like scoring a goal and just hearing 100 cars outside honking their
beeping their horns.
How are you meant to hug the guy next to you when you score or something? It's just like
you can't.
It's the best part of the game, isn't it? Just when you score and there's just limbs everywhere. That's what football's about for me.
I mean,
watching the news and everything that's going on in the world right now, especially with what's happening in America, it looks like social distancing is a thing of the past. People are just seem to be running around the streets of New York, all over America, and just basically crowding around. In, I think I've seen. Has anybody seen the video of the old woman in the wheelchair with the knife?
I don't know where this is going.
Yeah,
welcome to our football podcast, guys.
but bearing in mind, New York was probably one of the most hard-hit coronavirus places on earth. Their lockdown's completely gone, and I think if you look at a lot of the beaches in the UK, nobody cares about the whole lockdown now, and social distancing is now becoming a thing of the past, to the point where I don't even think the biggest worry is fans showing up outside the ground. I think people have just stopped caring altogether. But
I think it'll be really interesting to see which teams cope best with playing without fans and which teams cope the worst. I mean, do we have any speculation as to which teams we think may take the biggest hit from not having their fans, their home fans performing with them?
For me, I think in teams like Sheffield United, a lot of the smaller teams where it's sort of...
I don't know, I slightly disagree to the extent, because when you look at like Bournemouth, what's their capacity? It's only like, it's no more than 20,000.
10,000.
Less than 15,000, isn't
less than
it?
15,000.
I mean,
so
it's 10.
Realistically, it's not really... I mean, I know I'm a United fan, but you look at Man City, I know stadium's never full, but they haven't got that fan base that is so passionate.
I think you might even see though, like, how important are fans to a team's performance?
As
I think we want in a romantic way, we want it to be the case, but is it really?
Yeah, I think it is.
Cream always rises to the top. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you've got some grounds where it's just intimidating, and it's just like
like Selhurst Park with their really good home record.
Well, if you're thinking more beyond the Prem, if you think like, have you ever seen the Red Star Belgrade, the walk into the...
You're getting all Eastern European on us, Albert.
It's only because you've both been there that he's all over it.
But no, but like, for example,
I've seen that clip of the tunnel, to be fair. That does go.
And there is certain things where the team may not be even like Stoke back in the day, in sort of the years, all the big teams always used to struggle there. Who was it? It was Arsenal, wasn't it? Arsenal.
I think people just struggled with that Rory Delap throw, to be honest.
I mean, Max and Coburn, not so much body, but Max and Coburn, you must have seen this with Arsenal. When you're playing European competitions, some of the fans that you get travelling over, they're really, really passionate and incredible to watch. I mean, I think for me, Saint Etienne are probably the best fans I've seen in the last few years. They came over to Old Trafford and they were electric. The whole place was on fire. And there aren't many opposition fans that I would particularly compliment, certainly not in England. There might be a couple of sets, like Newcastle definitely included in that. But
yeah, definitely. Newcastle at the Emirates was lively.
But when Saint Etienne came, PSG came over and they set the place on fire, but they took it too far and they were spitting on disabled supporters and they ripped stanchions down. And
best fans I've seen at the Emirates, Cologne fans were good when I saw them.
Yeah,
Cologne,
very good.
The Cologne fans.
Cologne. What is it, Cologne?
They smell great.
Whatever. But 17th
is the judgment
17th of June though. we're back on.
We are, boys. It's back. The Premier League is back.
And part of me is like,
Man United are back, boys.
You're seeing some people like, oh, I'm still not excited to be back, but it's just a switch up to the routine. It gives people something to talk about. Like I for one am all for it until I saw first game and I forgot that we hadn't played Man City.
You got City.
and I feel like behind closed doors, I don't know if you'll agree, Coburn, behind closed doors againd Man City, you're looking at a 9-0.
Nah.
Yeah.
It's just like an away day for you, mate.
I'd probably take a 3-0 loss right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you consider our recent results against Man City, if you consider the fact that, you know, Phil Foden looked like a real footballer when he played against us, which is something I can't say for most of his performances in the Prem. And you consider the fact
very
that,
harsh.
Nah, mate, no, definitely
very harsh indeed.
He's English, he's not a Premier League level football player. We can legislate this over the next 2 years when he gets about 9 appearances for City.
We can do this another time.
I'm just going to say I disagree, but yeah.
I completely disagree. I think.
Yeah. You can disagree. We'll see. This is just like when people try.
But how much would you say his transfer value is, Coburn? Just out of interest.
Transfer value and capacity and ability are not the same thing. Like Callum Hudson-Odoi is getting paid 180 grand a week. Do you think that's because of his ability?
Yeah.
No, it's because of the perception around his ability. You watch him on the pitch and see if he earns that paycheck even once in the next 2 years. Anyone going to try and push back on Callum Hudson-Odoi? Anyone here think he's a quality player?
We can do this when they're back on the field.
Was wavy. Okay, well, Arsenal versus City, we've seen some absolutely diabolical performances.
Yeah, but so with City, we've beaten City more times they've beaten us this year. City lost to Norwich at home, for God's sake.
What is
something about City Arsenal? City Arsenal does not bode well for us.
Where is the game?
Between Arsenal and City, we've seen some shocking performances. And I think, to a large degree, they will be motivated coming back. Mikel Arteta may be, best placed to formulate a plan against Man City. He's inarguably the manager in the Premier League, best placed to come up with a plan. But at the same time, I just don't think he has the resources available to him to do anything against City at the moment.
That one won't be at City with it, or probably will because you can hide everything there quite well.
Yeah, the thing is as well, it's interesting with the restart thing. That form has completely gone out the window, and you've also got light players.
Not if you're Schalke.
Players coming back, some massive one.
Mate,
we had Rashford with a broken back, and he's now back. He's going to be playing.
That's the thing that people don't realise, and the integrity of the game. Me and Coburn were saying this. The integrity of the game is bollocks because everyone's now got fully fit squads.
Yeah,
you look at Spurs. Spurs are going to be handy. Unfortunately, it looks like.
I think Newcastle's definitely one of the teams to look out for because at one point I think we had 13 players injured. We had 13 players injured. Everybody seems to be back except for Andy Carroll. Would you believe it?
Your season now is wait for next season.
That's the same as our season, though.
Tilly, have you seen that? There was a clip of Andy Tate, and it was when you realised Hernandez and Pogba were back, and it went second half of the season. We're doing a title charge. Oh, quality.
Yeah, Bods, what position are Newcastle in?
I think we're 13th. I believe if we only need 5 points to get... we're on 35 points, so 2 wins and we should be safe. And I think as far as what people expected as Steve Bruce at the start of the season, most people were expecting relegation. I think
yourself included.
Yeah, I hold my hands up, and I don't think I was far from wrong when you see Rafa Benitez leave to be replaced by Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce is one of the best guys in the world.
I think this job
not even football managers, just guys in general.
Just general lads. He's written 3 books. He's written 3 murder mystery books that are football themed about a character called Steve Barnes, not Steve Bruce. He shares every single attribute of Steve Bruce's career, apart from the fact he's also won the Champions League.
makes me laugh though. You got Pep Guardiola, who's absolutely fascinated by statistics and sort of improving. And you got Steve Bruce, who's dedicating all his free time to writing 3
Steve
novels.
Barnes.
I think Bruce said himself
Unbelievable.
he doesn't use tactics at all, and I think if you've watched Newcastle this season, he's 100% right.
What kind of a manager comes out in the press and says, "I don't use tactics"?
I don't think that's direct. Surely, can't
That's
you can find a quote, and if you look at our stats,
you're going to find me some like end of the earth tune block where he said it.
If I had the stats in front of me, I think a lot of it would shock you, and that we're pretty much last for possession, last for goals scored. This season, it's just been some of the worst football I've ever witnessed. And I think it shows the poor quality of teams this year when we play as bad as we have and we still sit at 13th. I feel like teams like City haven't performed as well as they could have. If you look at how far ahead Liverpool are, I think that
I don't know about that. I don't think City have underperformed, to be honest, mate. I think that their squad is getting towards that tipping point, to be perfectly honest.
Do you think
I would agree. I don't think that they reinforced like they needed to.
And I think Liverpool they've been exceptional this season. They've been so much better than what everyone had sort of expected or even. Cheers, mate. Sorry, just get it there. Yeah, I think Liverpool have been just so much more exceptional than anyone could even imagine. And I hate to say that as a United fan, but what a side they built there. And I think that City to be in their shadow is quite unfair because City have obviously been champions in recent times, but their squad is nowhere near what it used to be in terms of strength. They're on the way out, they really are.
The thing is, you look at Liverpool's like longevity as well, and realistically, you have to think like, how much longer can this? Obviously, they've not even won it yet, but say they win the title this year, how much longevity does that side have? I mean, there's a few players in the squad. You got Milner at least. Even they're at the top of the game now, but Mane and Salah, how many years of extra have they got? It's a natural sort of cycle. So, and also
but then they sell them, and then what? Buy someone else sick.
But who have City really got in terms of the UK? They got Phil Foden, fair enough. He's a Stockport lad. He's from me, but like,
they got what's it called, Garcia.
But realistically, they haven't got that succession path in place yet, and now there are teams like Newcastle that are going to be able to take over.
I think you're seriously underrating that succession path. You're looking at Bernardo Silva for David Silva. You're looking at Gabriel Jesus for Aguero. You're looking at Raheem
Sterling. They're not the same. They're not the same quality.
Leroy Sané, he's quite young.
They're but they've also got the
financial. They've got the financial capacity to supplement that team.
Well, that was my point. My point is with the current thing with Newcastle being taken over, City may no longer be the richest club in the Premier League. And why would people want to go and play for City when they can go and play for Liverpool, who are doing more, who've got more success in this season certainly, or when they can go and play for Newcastle for double the wage, or when they can go and play
for the same reason that players were going to City before. Because they're still going to be there or thereabouts at the top of the Premier League. They're still going to pay there or thereabouts when it comes to top dollar. Pep Guardiola is still going to be there or thereabouts as one of the top managers in the Premier League. They've still got big name draws in players like Sergio Aguero, who is undisputedly one of the greatest strikers in Europe. Well known as such. They've still got great players that you would want to go there and play with. And they've got recent successes.
Here's one for you then, Coben, as well. On reasons for joining Man City. Did you hear Robinho's reason for joining Man City?
Yeah, because he thought he was going to United.
Because he didn't realise there was another team in Manchester.
Which is a great anecdote and demonstrates how far City have come in that time. From just being a team that poached Arsenal's players by throwing 3 times as much money at them, to now actually being a European side. Complete with massive failures at the European level, just like most English sides.
Like Arsenal.
City were in it seems so long ago now, but City were actually ahead in the leg, weren't they, against Real Madrid in the Champions League?
Yeah, they beat, the 2-1, wasn't it?
At the Bernabeu.
Did they not go 1-0 down? Did they not go 1-0 down?
This is the question.
Is the Champions League done now?
Yeah, well, this is what I was going to say.
They've not announced.
Because you've got PSG who are through, because obviously they beat Dortmund. It was like one of the last games before Ice Cream Van, if anybody wants one.
Get around it.
Get the whippies in for the boys. PSG, they went through, but their league's been scrapped. So they'd now have to go into a potential Champions League tie without any
With no domestic football.
Well, I mean, it's French league, so it's sort of, do you know what I mean? It's a bit Farmers League, to quote others. But yeah, so if they go in, if they had
that is a massive disadvantage that has to be accounted.
Yeah, it's such a step up to be facing that sort of other level of competition, especially in the latter stage of the Champions League.
But it's good though. It's good though. I know the Champions League's still a question mark, but it's good that the Premier League's coming back. I mean, that's really one of the main things and the main talking points of everything is the Premier League's coming back. We're back, boys. The FA Cup's coming back as well. And
yeah, the FA Cup being back is huge
for us as English football fans.
Liverpool aren't in that as well.
This is a controversial one, but the FA Cup magic for me is gone.
Right, we're not getting onto that now.
Yeah, well, cheers for that. Just for you listeners out there that maybe haven't understood this, we've just put a message in the group WhatsApp saying let's get back onto the Premier League restarting. So thanks for mentioning the magic of the FA Cup there, Al. Cheers for that one, mate. You've set us
I also feel like we're neglecting League One and the Championship at the moment, which at the moment have no start dates back again. It's all up in the air.
That'll be why we're neglecting them then.
I think it'll follow suit. It will follow suit.
They had tests, didn't they?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's been tests in different.
Nine positive tests in the Championship, and
I think
3
it was
in
17. I think it was 17 in total across.
Yeah.
All
maybe not then.
But what they propose, it's a weird one though, because they've scrapped League Two, and so they've scrapped that.
I think the thing is though, like, as much as anyone says it, and it's the same reason why they scrapped women's football is because there's all the money is in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's
like
why SPFL's gone straight away.
And I know you sort of alluded to it earlier, Buddy, but like with sort of social distancing dying down, do you think we can trust people to stay away from venues, as it were, or how do you see that one playing out?
I think
can you see people gathering? I mean, if pubs are back, you know, the Premier League's going to be on. Like, how are people staying away there?
I think what clubs have to do to at least try keep fans away is use more of the influential speakers. So if their biggest worry is that a lot of Liverpool fans are going to stand outside of Anfield if they're going to win the trophy, which it looks like they're going to. I think you're going to have to get people like Jurgen Klopp, maybe Jordan Henderson, do personal videos or through Sky Sports, however they mean to, and really get the message across and show how important it is.
Just feel I think
you're always going to get the odd fan. You're always going to get one person who's going to do it. But if you can stop the vast majority, I think that's the only way you can.
Well, I mean, it's the same situation as saying, as a football fan, going to punch a horse. Well, yeah, there's that one Newcastle fan.
I don't think you're talking about one, though. I don't think it's not the same as someone that's going to punch a horse.
The thing is,
about people going out to celebrate winning the league. Liverpool have not won the league.
That's a different story. I thought you were talking about sort of individuals grouping together just to watch a match, and I mean, it's sort of
it's all part of it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but what I would say is, obviously, what they've discussed and whether it actually happens or not is a different story. But they're discussing like making it so it's as widely available as possible. So, say whatever team you support, you can watch that match then and then. Like, I mean, obviously, it's there's not much other football going on. But if you look at like BT Sport, for example, their coverage of the Bundesliga is, I mean, it's so wide. You can literally like find the highlights for every game quickly. Whenever it's on, it's all spaced out well, so you can sort of watch whatever team you want to watch. So it'd be interesting to see in the Premier League if they sort of replicated that, because me as a non-Premier League fan, it's not, I say non-Premier League fan, but obviously supporting a different team from a lower division, it's not necessarily the biggest priority. But sort of for those people that go to, say, Watford, they need to be able to watch Watford versus another team lower down the table, whereas usually within the Premier League, do you know what I mean, you have your big fixtures in the morning and the evening on a Saturday, then all your 3 o'clock games are being forgotten about. So I feel like there's a responsibility in there somewhere for the broadcasters to be able to make it widely access available.
Yeah,
for those people.
They're doing the what is it, 12, 2, 4, 6, and 8, aren't they, or something like that?
Oh, is that what's been proposed?
They're doing that, and all the games are available on BBC on that first Saturday.
I think Sky said everything
Really?
was going to be free.
No, it's not everything's free. They said that there's going to... The ones that are already on subscription are going to stay on subscription. The ones that weren't already planned to be on subscription are going to be free to air on a special channel.
That first weekend, Gary Lineker's all over it for BBC.
Shout out Gary Lineker.
Yeah, they got four games pretty much in a row, back to back.
I think with all the games being televised, it's going to be interesting to see if this has any effect on anything in the future. I know, like in America, is it NSBCSN or something where they literally show every single game?
NBCSN.
Yeah,
you're right.
They literally show every single game. I feel it.
That's what I want you.
Yeah.
On my legal streams.
We saw that sort of Boxing Day, wasn't it? On
it
Amazon
was
Prime.
Amazon, yeah.
But
Smashed it. That was sick.
I was all for it, to be honest, but I just didn't like how there was a real 20-second delay, wasn't it, with our live games.
To be honest,
that's always the problem, isn't it?
I watch everything on a dodgy screen, on a dodgy stream. Everything's about 5 minutes behind.
Can't say that. Allegedly, allegedly.
What about
one of them dodgy Saudi streams?
Our sponsors listening.
I think we can also say as well, can you please, if you're listening, write in with your best story of when you've been watching a stream and it's been completely ruined by a notification on your phone that's told you someone scored. Because the amount of times
I think it happens all the time.
Oh my God. You're like, it's so tense, and then all of a sudden someone goes, "Oh, have you seen this? They've just scored." No, not yet. I'm 60 seconds behind.
But
in the comment box on the side.
Going back to Project Restart, I mean, it was probably about a month ago now, 3 weeks ago, that some players were coming out and saying that they felt unsafe to play, likes of Troy Deeney. I know Kante said so as well. Do you think that from those types we might see a change in attitude, and I know Danny Rose was quite vocal about it as well. What are your thoughts on that, lads? How do you think things move on from there, or do you think? I think society in general as attitudes have changed a little bit towards what's going on.
For me personally, I think it's inevitable that they'll have to change their mind, because, as you say, it already feels like there's been a shift in mentality about the whole thing. And it's one of the biggest things, we don't want to get into it too much, but it's one of the biggest things with the whole pandemic is that it's left a lot to individuals to take up on how they feel, and I think it's all got to be respected. So players like Troy Deeney, you can totally understand their views, as you're not criticising them, but the question is, when it comes to crunch time and Watford Watford have matches,
they're down there, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of, each one matters so much. Is he going to be then sticking by it? Maybe not in the initial fixtures, but as time goes on as well, it's also up in the air that it's hard to say, but it does look that way. That sort of, it's good saying it now, but as you say, with the progression and the sort of changes that have been made, even since the initial mention of Project Restart, it's it's definitely.
Does my man have the cojones? No, I'm joking.
It's really a bit of a non-story at this point, just because Troy Deeney has reportedly spoken to a couple of health officials, been reassured the rest of the team that he will be going back to training, and Kante has been doing individual training with the rest of the team at the training ground. He's just been doing some training on his own, and I imagine he'll be reintegrated soon. So I don't think there are any attitudes really enduring in the Premier League against going back to training anymore. There was just more reticence about the speed at which people were being forced to go back, and the fact that a lot of people are still painting these Premier League clubs as profit-seeking and going back. Like the Women's League hasn't gone back, presumably because they don't make enough money to make it justify taking the risk. A lot of people are kind of looking more at the reasoning behind going back as a reason to be suspicious, rather than still kind of thinking they might get massively infected by going back to individual training currently.
it's difficult, really, isn't it? Because I think, you know, for this pandemic and sort of moving forward, it's never going to be 100% free of risk, is it? But what is, like, going to the supermarket isn't.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's great that we've got better football, and it's great that things are starting
Yeah.
to come back into normal life. And I mean, it's an ideology that you sort of think all of a sudden, bang, flick the switch, this is over, back to normal, we're back to the ball. It's never going to happen, but
No, it's never
good to
going to
see
happen.
that
It's a slow.
first step's now there, and we can move on from this, can't we? So
Next step's
brilliant.
next step's the barbers for me. I need that open.
Yeah, me too.
I've been absolutely
What are you on
butchered.
about?
Grooming
Barbers,
this.
what's that?
Oh,
Yeah.
mate. Now, barbers and gyms need to come back.
Barbers and gyms need to come back ASAP.
I'm going to shave my head on Tuesday.
So you what, I bet
Take
hat
the
makers
hat
are
off.
absolutely
Take
laughing
the
at
hat
the
off.
moment.
Buddy, take that hat off.
Look at that, man.
Tilly, how do you think we're going to adapt to this new environment that we found ourselves in?
It's a good question, mate, because I think it's very different to what everyone's used to from the fans' point of view, from the coaching staff's point of view, but also from the players' point of view. And I think a lot of the players have sort of felt like they've been consulted last on this. But I was listening to Talk Sport yesterday, and they had John Motson on, and he made a very good point about when rule changes have happened in football in the past. For example, the most notable one is the pass-back rule, so you can't pass the ball back to the keeper anymore. I mean, we've grown up knowing that as a rule. But back in the day, teams would waste time by just passing it back, and that's such a change in football terms. But it was adapted to like that in the day, and his sort of point there was that we've seen these changes in football. I mean, even in recent times, we've seen the introduction of VAR. We've seen kickoffs changing where you can pass the ball backwards. We've seen goal kicks change to the point you don't have to actually kick the ball out of the box. There are so many little rule changes, but his point was that we've adapted to them. We've adapted to them so well that why can we not adapt to playing behind closed doors, and why can we not adapt to this unfamiliar situation? And I think we'll be fine. Give it a couple of weeks. I think you won't even notice.
For sure. I think with playing behind closed doors, I've certainly, from watching the Bundesliga, it seems it's just more about just watching the football in front of you. You're not sort of taken away with the atmosphere. And I've just enjoyed watching, you know, the sport that we all love and watching live sport again, which, I don't know, body for me, but, you know, there's only so much nostalgia you can go through. I'm tired of seeing it, and I'm tired of all the. I've watched every 100 club to death.
Yeah,
you know,
have you been seeing it, Max? The on this day, however many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like,
happy birthday, Kaka.
I love all that. I love football's greatest, and, you know, they have their place, but it can't replace live sport for me.
Well, like you say, Max, I know you said you've enjoyed the fact that sport's coming back, and so have I. I'm not going to lie, but there's nothing I can wait for more. It's not live sport; it's United. I want to watch Man United. I want to watch my team again, and I fully think that we're going to qualify for the Champions League this year. I don't have a doubt about us finishing top four. I think that is a complete given. The way that things are starting to happen with Bruno coming in January, and the way he's taken things into his stride, I can't see us not finishing top four this year. And I know we're not there at the moment, but I think we'll pip Chelsea to it, and I think we could even finish third, to be honest.
Well, even with De Gea, Butterfingers in goal.
Yeah, well, it's not like we've got the two best backups in the world.
Do you know what? Romero's class.
Good keeper, mate. Really good keeper.
I've always been really impressed with him whenever he's come in. And Lee Grant.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say the remaining fixtures for the rest of the season is going to be completely different. It's almost going to be like a parallel universe to what would have actually happened.
Mate, we're going to see a North London derby behind closed doors.
Yeah, and you don't know what kind of effect that would have had. I think, like, for me as a Newcastle fan, Manchester City Newcastle in the quarterfinal, I think it was meant to be an 8 o'clock kickoff, and could you have imagined St James's Park, 8 o'clock, sold out quarterfinals of the FA Cup, everybody being on the lash the whole day. The atmosphere there would have given Newcastle an extra boost, whereas I feel like us playing City in the quarterfinal behind closed doors, it's going to look like it's going to look like a pre-match friendly. Like,
are you confident you'll stay up this year then, buddy? Because I know that influence is going to affect league games.
Yeah, I feel like the way the seasonal end is, we're pretty much safe now. I think if you look at the bottom three, the bottom four, I think it's a scramble. Norwich are already down.
Who else do you think is going to go down then? I think Norwich, we can all agree, are gone.
I think Bournemouth are going to get dragged into it.
Yeah, they've been shit.
Yeah.
And
It's just not been good enough, have they?
It's a toss-up probably for me. I'm going to say Villa would probably be my next one. Just because I feel like Villa tried to do a Fulham, which never works, where you try to buy a new squad, essentially.
Well, it ruined Fulham, didn't it? Because they couldn't afford the wages.
Well,
what was he? Ross McCormack was there on 180 grand a week in the Championship.
It's nothing to do with the financial side of things. I think when you buy a squad that don't know each other very well, like you say, Fulham, it didn't work out for them. And Villa, I think they bought 14 new players.
They had to, though. Villa's problem was when they...
Poundland.
Go ahead, Albert.
I just said that Villa's problem was they had to replace those of players they had on loan. So they had Tammy Abraham, for example, in the Championship, who absolutely bagged. And then I think they might have even...
Not when we watched him, Coben.
Either way, boys, Dortmund won 6-1 in the end.
Jesus, what a last 10.
Me and Coben went to watch just quickly QPR versus Villa last season.
For what
my
reason?
my boss is a QPR fan. He's a season ticket holder.
Fair play, then. Fair play.
Me and Coben both work in London. He had a couple of tickets, so we went to see QPR Villa Friday night under the lights. What an occasion it was, Coben! And
lively.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's a good ground, that Loftus Road. It was really good.
Was it 0-0?
No, QPR won 1-0. Tammy Abraham missed about 7 chances. Me and Coben were just waiting the whole way home. And
he does that for Chelsea now. He needs about...
He's a form player, though, didn't he? He had a really good start to the season, didn't he?
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the season.
You've never been convinced by him, have you, Coben?
I was unconvinced. I knew he'd regressed to the mean. He's an average player who was in a hot streak.
Still bagged the winner
not an
against
average
us,
player.
though.
Not an average player. I completely disagree. I think he's a good talent. I think he's a good player.
Scored on his England debut.
Relativised to what? Relativised to what? To Christian Benteke?
No, nowhere near, mate. Nowhere near. Nowhere near. You've got to bear in mind the age of the lad.
Benteke was lit for a couple of years.
Exactly.
He was. But no, you've got to bear in mind the age of the lad. You've got to bear in mind Tammy Abraham's a young lad. He's banging goals at this age. I mean, look at Rashford. He's nowhere near his prime yet. He went up, and for me, he went down again. And he started coming back up to the point where you think, actually, this lad, if he keeps going, could be a world beater.
I think this is the first season. Well, this is the first season where I've really been convinced that Rashford could ever touch the top table of elite footballers.
What about his debut season, though? You can't admit that his debut season, the way he broke onto the scene, was not impressive.
Yeah, no, I said it right. It's very impressive, but in terms of getting,
and then he's gone down. Like I said, he's gone down a little bit, and he's slumped.
But I don't think he came out of the gate looking the same way that the top players look when they're coming out of the gate. He looked like he had the raw materials, and it could go one way or the other. Now, when he had his downturn, it wasn't such a dramatic downturn that I thought he hasn't got the tools there to be able to put it back together and pull his way back into being a top player. This season's the first time I've seen him really develop from game to game over a period of 10, 15 games, looking like he's adding more, getting more confident, doing things that I didn't see him do at the beginning of that run.
So what's stopping Tammy Abraham doing that kind of thing? There's nothing, there's no difference there. I mean, you get different types of players. Me and Albert had this discussion yesterday, actually. We were talking about Mbappe or Neymar. And we both agreed Mbappe is the far superior choice because Neymar is a world beater. And don't get me wrong, but since he left Santos, he has not improved. He's not improved. He's not improved. Neymar
he's not improved since Santos.
He's played in PSG. He's played at Barcelona, and he hasn't improved. And he hasn't improved.
Yeah, that's why no one is United fans.
Rashford's made strides.
strides,
but Neymar hasn't improved.
Mate, literally, look at Ronaldo and Messi. They influence games far more than Neymar has ever done in his life. And for people to put Neymar in that top 3 categories,
it's bollocks.
That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard anyone say.
He hasn't improved. He hasn't changed. He has genuinely not changed in 5 years.
Neymar doesn't affect games.
He's as good a player as he was 5 years ago as he is now.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
He's a good player, don't get me wrong. He's one of the best in the world. I'm not saying he's not. But he hasn't changed in 5 years.
Do you think there's any player of the last 5 years who's been better than Neymar at any point over the last 5 years?
Messi.
Fucking hundreds, mate.
At United.
Hundreds?
No, I said
Go on.
Oh,
at
at United. At United. No, probably not.
No.
So over the last 5 years,
Probably
even
not.
if he hasn't
No.
improved,
Maybe
even
De
if he hasn't
Gea. Maybe De
improved,
Gea.
5 years ago, he was better than any of your
De
outside
Gea?
players, and he still is.
Have you seen
Mate,
shots of him this season?
disregard the last 6 months. Maybe De
He's
Gea.
thrown about 10 in this season. That Watford one as well. That's the one that really gets me.
Mate, he's
I
got
can't-
concussion
I
like
can't
Karius did
believe
in that
what
Champions
you're
League final.
You're talking about 1/3. You're talking about 1/3 of MSN, one of Brazil's greatest all-time international forwards.
I just don't think he's improved. I think he's a world beater, and I think he has been a world beater for the last 5 years. But you just don't see that
Realistically,
development
I
as a
think
player
he's
that you
still-
did
I
with
think-
Ronaldo.
Strange
and Messi.
argument that.
I
I
don't
don't know.
think
They can still
Mbappe's ever
influence
been
games
better
at their
than
age.
Neymar.
I
don't
don't
think
think
Mbappe's
Neymar
ever
will be
been better than
35
Neymar.
and influencing games. I can't see it.
I don't think Mbappe's ever been better than Neymar. I think Mbappe's
Oh,
an
big
incredible player.
I think they're pretty much on par, and I think he's
I
going to be better. Give it 2 years.
Yeah, he
He's
could
got
though.
to see
He
where
could. I'm
Mbappe
not saying he
goes.
couldn't in the future. I'm just saying there hasn't been a season thus far where Mbappe has been better for that season.
All right then, Coben. Simple question: Neymar or Mbappe?
Neymar.
For Arsenal. For
Max,
Arsenal.
Neymar,
Oh,
Mbappe.
what to purchase now?
What, as in,
Well, no,
as in
because you've got future
who I'd
upside.
rather have at Arsenal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one player:
For
Neymar or Mbappe.
For this one season, or
Yeah.
No,
for
no,
one season,
right now.
mate.
yeah, for
Right
one
now,
season.
Who would you
Neymar.
want? Neymar.
Neymar.
I would have Mbappe for age.
You'd have Mbappe. Albert.
Yeah, but that's for
Mbappe.
age. We're talking about
Mbappe.
for
Body.
just
If you,
now
yeah, I
to
agree.
hit
If
the
you had
ground
it for
running.
one season, I still would probably rather have
Still go Mbappe.
Mbappe because his output is ridiculous.
unbelievable.
Mbappe,
I'd probably
Neymar-
have
Neymar-
Neymar because I
Neymar-
think he could. I think Neymar at
Neymar's
Arsenal would.
output is
Neymar at
ridiculous.
Arsenal would make more.
Neymar's output is ridiculous. Neymar. Okay, so are you going to say that Neymar as a creative player is worse than Mbappe in terms of laying on balls for his teammates, dribbling and creating space, off the ball movement, opening up space for his teammates? Who do you think does that better, Neymar or Mbappe?
I think Neymar does that better, and I think Mbappe has more of an impact on games than Neymar does.
In what sense? If they both have a very similar
Goals.
scoring
In the
rate,
sense that he
they both
single-handedly
have a very
wins
similar
games.
scoring rate.
No, they don't.
Okay.
No, they don't. They definitely don't have a similar scoring rate.
Goals per game, when you consider for the fact that Neymar has been extensively injured.
I
Look
swear
at goals
Mbappe is
per
something
game.
like got the most goals ever in a domestic league for a 21-year-old. I swear he has.
Potentially.
At the age of 21, I'm pretty sure he's got the most domestic league goals ever out of any
Potentially.
league.
But we're talking about a period of time where Neymar has been extensively injured and he's missed a lot of games. And if you actually look at their goal per game numbers...
I mean, it is hard when you're missing games for your
90.
sister's birthday party.
He loves
Yeah,
his
well,
sister, doesn't
again, we're talking about stuff that's happening off the pitch. And like, if you want to talk about Neymar's diving, if you want to talk about his
I feel like-
constant rotating carousel of haircuts, if you want to talk about his controversial comments and the disrespect that he's shown to the club, flirting with Barca publicly, we can talk about all of that. And if you talk about all of that, then who would I rather have as a poster boy for my club, Mbappe? Who would I rather have as a potential future captain candidate, Mbappe? Who would I rather have as a future member of an elite team, Mbappe? But in terms of right now, today, I've got 6 months to play games. Who's going to be the more influential player of the whole team? Who's going to do more if they're
I'd
not
still
injured?
argue Mbappe.
Neymar.
I'd still argue Mbappe, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, no, but there's nothing wrong with being wrong as long as you know when you're wrong.
Well, on that note, mate, you take your leave and we'll finish off the podcast.
I think that would be a good way to end it. Has anybody else got anything to add?
I wouldn't mind doing the introduction again.
Can I actually just spit out a quick Steve Bruce quote from one of his books? 'Cause I thought it was
we'll
really
finish-
good,
we'll
yeah.
finish
Yes,
on a Steve
definitely.
Bruce quote.
Definitely. We should have a Steve Bruce quote every week.
In fact, let me get it up so I get the exact quote because I've got it on my phone here. I don't want to misrepresent the brilliance that is Steve Bruce, the author. So,
Sorry, which book's this from?
I think this one's from Striker, which was the first of the three in the trilogy.
Yeah.
The first one was called Striker, the second one was called Defender, and I think the third one was called
Oh, brilliant.
was it called
Brilliant.
midfielder?
I think they were.
No, there was no midfielder. He went, we'll go striker, we'll go defender. What's next? Naturally, sweeper.
You're right. He knows nothing about tactics.
Come on, until he send us home.
Right. We're going. Right, that didn't work.
Get
So I'm
it
just
up,
going to say
mate.
it. So there was a part in it where he said, and he said, so in my office, I have a PC. By PC, I mean personal computer, not police constable. That's a direct quote
Just
from
to
his
clarify.
book. Just to clarify. Cheers, Steve. I was a bit unsure on that one, mate.
So
I
was
love the
one
fact
of-
that he's digressing in his writing, rather than going, "Oh, let me rewrite that sentence to make it a bit less ambiguous what I'm talking about."
Oh, mate, there's
He
a
actually
part.
he just puts the clarification in the actual writing.
There's a part where he has to drive
That's like
over
an
the
editor's comment
M62.
that he's left in.
There's a part where he has
Right.
to drive over the M62 to Leeds, right? And he spends about 3 pages of the book talking about the reservoirs that are situated up on the hills. And he literally talking about how they work, how they've been engineered, the company that. Oh, he's absolutely brilliant.
What year were the books wrote in? Does it say?
I'm not sure. See, I got a lot of this.
Fucking, where's this going here?
Right, boys, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, let's draw the line there.
We're turning into Body's dream of a tune pod again.
Not necessarily. All I want to make sure is that he hasn't been writing this during this season.
No, they're old. They're old. Striker was released in 1999.
Striker.
They're old.
Boys,
Was he still
and
playing
on
for United
and
then?
on that note, I'm
Nice.
gonna dip, have a
Striker.
barbecue. For me.
Steve
Yeah.
Bruce.
For all the people
Bougie
watching.
out.
If you haven't
people
listened though, I'd recommend listen to the Josh Whittaker podcast. The
Do you want to round it off
80s
now?
Football. It's
Yes,
brilliant.
Max,
Go
round
on,
it
Sam.
off because everybody probably has stopped listening by now.
Yeah, let's cut and go.
Well, I
3,
thought we
2,
were having
1.
a few cuts in here, no?
Come on.
Yeah, Buddy's the editor.
Well, if you're still listening back home, thank you for still listening. We're going to be
To the
back.
rest of you, fair play. I'd have
Yeah,
quit
we're
ages ago.
We're going to be back as often as we can, hopefully every week, for our new podcast, 5 at the Back. Like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, see you in due
See you next
course.
time.